Hello. Thought I might present a little update on this Spud Buster project, as I'm calling it. A bark spudding tool that can also smash stuff or sned branches or whatever. We'll see. I did a kind of a basic test with this thing just pinned together, and it did work fine for spudding bark, but it was a little wobbly and it was obviously going to fail. So I've clamped this with G-Flex epoxy. By the way, this is if anyone's watching for the first time, this is a Tops mini pry knife with which I already had quite a lot of history. I ground out the serrations and stuff. And it's pinned into a mole handle with some lilac pins. Lilac being a very tough, strong wood that, if well seasoned, doesn't compress or contract very easily. Yeah, I guess the handle is hickory. It came with something of a warp to it, and then when I was heating it up in front of the fire for the epoxy, I think the warp might have actually accentuated a little. But I accounted for the warp, and so you can see that with the kind of convex side, that goes to the flat side. So it's ergonomic thinking, right? If I'm working this way, I want the convex. And if I'm going in this way on the flat, then I get the curve coming up towards me. Just a little, you know. This handle could probably be thinned out a lot, but I'm not too worried about that for the time being. What I am concerned with is finishing this whole thing here, which will involve obviously cutting off the excess pin. Then I'm going to fill in, you know, I'll stick tape, I guess, on this side and just pour in, having roughed up a little, right? Pour in some G-Flex. This is the thick G-Flex, and I don't have much of it, so I used it very sparingly. But, you know, I clamped it all, so it's all, you know, it can just be supplemented by any other epoxy, but I guess I'll use the G-Flex not thick, the runny formula, and then that same thing later I'll bind it all up with twine and epoxy. Twine epoxy makes a very, very strong compound, comparable to, say, carbon fiber, micarta, any of that stuff, right? If you do it well, it's very strong. I have made tools with this kind of, you know, like I stuck a kitchen knife into a handle like this and made it a spear, and the union has held up just fine on a tiny little skinny kitchen knife tang. So this will be very robust. Robust enough to smash things, blam, right? And that'll be good. Here is this Japanese axe I've been struggling with. So it's very bright out here, and I can't really, you know, can half see what's going on the screen. But I figure, you know, the image will be good. So yeah, I've been struggling with this Japanese axe. This is handle number 2, well, maybe number 3 or 4. I don't know. I mean, yeah, the first handle I put on it actually was this joke little tiny handle. That was a while back. Anyway, so we got pretty good fitment here. It's still not perfect, but come a point, I decided I'm going to use epoxy whenever I do this as well. Previously, it just didn't stick, but I discovered a thing, which is that previously I made the wedges, I made the handle out of ash, and I made the wedges, oh wait, no, how is this? Yeah, I made the handle with ash and the wedges with oak, but anyway, the handle broke. Prior to that, it was popping out, and I think that was because of using oak wedges. Because the oak will compress. So this being oak, which is what the Japanese use, I guess they don't use North American red oak, but they use some kind of oak. Yeah, this will compress. So aside from when I bang it on, I'm going to bang it on good and tight. I may kind of hit it with a mallet first to try and compress the fibers a little and then rough it up, and then I'll be filling the gaps with epoxy in any case, because there will be some gapping. But I've made this little piece here out of rhododendron wood, which I discovered is the one woody substance around here that's actually harder than lilac. This is extremely hard. This is getting close to ebony and blackwood and things like that. So this kind of reminds me of like a clarinet reed or a saxophone reed. But the idea is that it's two wedges, right? I got to cut it down the middle, and then one of them is a little thicker and one of them is a little thinner, because of my projected, how I want to orient this. I'm going to want the thicker wedge back there and just a thin one there. The thin one almost more because I think it'll be good to have the hardness of the hardness and resilience of this rhododendron wood between the compressibility of the oak and the steel. So, and then all that bound up with the very finest G-Flex thick epoxy. And once that is in the process of curing, obviously I've got to cut this off here, right? This is way too big. But I used all of this to get a good fitment. It's pretty tight down this side. And there are really only significant gapping here and here, which is what I was aiming for, because the Japanese style of wedging, according to what I gather, you do not put a wedge in this way, or you can actually bust the head. The wedges go this way. So also, once I put that all together with epoxy, I think I'm going to make a metal wedge that will go this way across there and bang that in there as well while it's curing, right? And that should lock it in. This I measured finally with calipers. Also, this eye is totally out of whack with the axe. I mean, I'm thinking about my friend Knife Sharpening Norway complaining about the Japanese quality control, and you know, this thing is really cool, but it's not exactly made to the very most exacting standards that one might expect. You know, maybe a little too wabi-sabi. Meaning not wabi-sabi at all, just goofy, right? But hey, it wasn't that expensive. I think the steel is amazing. And, you know, it's like anything. It's never, no knife or whatever is going to come perfect. You're always going to have to accommodate for some weeble wobble. So I just got this cool Hawkbill, and I haven't used it yet. Arrived yesterday. But I recently acquired a buck fixed blade Hawkbill, which I'm in the process of rehandling. And then I saw a fellow called Just Your Average Everyday Joe, EDC, I think that's his name, was presenting one of these. Buck Workman Hawkbill, lockback. Quite unusual. Quite large also. It's seems a little bigger than your regular slip joint Hawkbill. Just a touch. You know? Half an inch. This one actually came with DIM etched onto the blade or engraved, which is the initials of a fellow who bought it. I didn't bring the box out, but it says his name on the box. So those are his initials. He had this made out. I don't think he ever put his edge on it. I think this is more than likely the original factory edge. And one thing that helps me to divine that is what's going on down here. See, this unsharpened area there. This hasn't really been touched. Now I think this is really cool. I think that on a Hawkbill, what we have right here is a very elegant solution, far superior to a sharpening choil, which will hang up on things. And over time and subsequent resharpenings, of course, you can get in there and get that all sharp. But meanwhile, you know, if you're cutting carpet or whatever, you don't need that part sharp. But if I'm using this for pruning, so I get a vine, I snag it up here and there, I start to pull, it's going to slide into the cut. No problem. No problem having that unsharpened area there. Okay, also if you're whittling, you might like to have that bit sharp, you know. But you also might not, because then you can, you know, get up here and confidently and... Yeah, so... this reminded me of what I've got going on in one of my everyday carry Hawkbill knives, which is this Lucky Dog Knife Company. I think it's maybe called honestly, I can't remember the name of this one, so I'm not gonna hazard a guess. I know that they have the guard dog. This might be the guard dog, but I'm just not sure. Anyway, Lucky Dog Knife Company. It's a Hawkbill. Very kind of not very aggressive recurve on this one. This is often more useful, this straighter kind of Hawkbill profile. It had a choil. And now I have this same kind of shape going on here, plus a weird little Cupid's bow thing. That rust is not from the knife. That is because I found a rusty screwdriver earlier while I was sharpening this. And so I used it as if it were a honing rod on the knife to clean off the rust. And I used this area as well to scrape off the rust and also to kind of condition this. It did, although obviously CPM 3V is probably going to be quite a lot tougher than vintage screwdriver steel. Yeah, of course, after the manner of water on rock, you can use a softer steel to put wear onto a harder steel. So I surmise. So that's my presentation. Just thought I might, or rather I ought to do something, to keep the channel up and running. I'm very distracted these days, got a lot going on, got a lot of decisions to make, and I find myself struggling to make decisions. But it's never hard for me to come up with new projects or things to sharpen and present on my channel. Thank you for watching, hope you're all well, enjoying this lovely weather, if you're getting some. All right, toodle pip.